The gleaming red surface of a Tesla has always been more than just a car, but today we have to peel back the layers of metal and glass to see the digital ghost that is truly driving the future of the entire global economy. You see, everyone is talking about the $25,000 Tesla, as if it is a simple gift to the middle class or a desperate move to fight off the rising tide of Chinese competition, but the truth is far more calculated and perhaps a little bit terrifying for those who realize what is actually happening. Imagine a world where a car is no longer a machine you buy to get from point A to point B, but a Trojan horse designed to enter every driveway on the planet for one specific purpose, which is the harvesting of human behavior through pure raw data. When you look at the automotive landscape in 2026, you see a battlefield littered with companies like BYD and Xiaomi, who are building incredible hardware at prices that make traditional giants like Ford and Volkswagen tremble, yet Tesla seems to be playing a completely different sport on a completely different field. While the media obsessions over delivery numbers and quarterly margins, the engineers in Austin and Berlin are building something that doesn't just drive but learns and thinks and evolves with every single kilometer driven by every single owner across the globe. We are standing at the precipice of a shift where the vehicle itself becomes the secondary product and the intelligence living inside it becomes the primary asset, which is why this affordable Tesla might be the most important piece of technology ever released in our lifetime. If you think the story is about lithium batteries and electric motors, you are missing the forest for the trees, because the real value lies in the billions of miles of real-world data that a mass-market vehicle will provide to an insatiable artificial intelligence hungry for every turn of a steering wheel and every tap of a brake pedal. Tesla is no longer just a car company, and it hasn't been for a long time, but rather it has transformed into the world's largest robotics and AI firm that just happens to wrap its brains in a sleek aerodynamic shell. The question isn't whether you can afford a $25,000 electric car, but whether the world is ready for the level of total market dominance that comes when a single company owns the eyes and ears of the global transportation network. As we dive into the deep mechanics of the strategy, you will start to see that the competition isn't even looking in the right direction, because while they are trying to figure out how to build a cheaper door handle, Tesla is figuring out how to own the future of human mobility itself. This is a game of scale that the world has never seen before, where the price of the car is just the admission fee to an ecosystem that will eventually manage everything from how we travel to how we spend our time, and even how our cities are designed from the ground up. To understand where we are going, we have to look at the sheer magnitude of the electric vehicle market, which exploded to over 14 million units in 2023, and shows no signs of slowing down even as the growth curves begin to shift and change in ways that confuse traditional analysts. Tesla delivered nearly 1.8 million vehicles recently, and while that number is massive, the entry of giants like BYD has created a narrow gap that looks like a threat on paper but might actually be the catalyst Tesla needed to unleash its true master plan. When you look at the profit margins that Tesla has maintained for years, you see a company that understands vertical integration better than anyone else since the days of the original moving assembly line, yet their true edge isn't just in the factory but in the software that lives in the cloud. Every OTA update and every new line of code added to the full self-driving suite is a brick in a wall that is becoming impossible for legacy automakers to climb over, no matter how much money they throw at their own electric programs. We are watching a historical pivot where the hardware is becoming a commodity and the software is becoming the king, and in this new kingdom Tesla has already claimed the throne while everyone else is still trying to find the map. As we move forward through this exploration, you will see why the hidden truths about Tesla's long-term plans are much bigger than a simple price tag or a viral headline, and why staying until the very end of the story is the only way to truly grasp the magnitude of the revolution that is parked right outside your door. The data is power, and in the modern tech world, there is no one more powerful than the entity that knows exactly how the world moves, which is why the Model 2 is not just an entry-level vehicle but a digital dragnet designed to capture the future of the entire planet. Stay with me as we break down the secret architecture of this empire and reveal why the global auto industry won't even understand what hit them until the Tesla logo is on every street corner and the steering wheel has become a relic of the past. The transition from a luxury electric car manufacturer to a mass-market data harvester is not happening in a vacuum, because while Tesla was perfecting its software in the Silicon Valley bubble, a sleeping giant in the East was quietly building an empire of its own that now threatens to topple the American king from its throne. To understand the true desperation behind the $25,000 Tesla, we must look at the meteoric rise of BYD, which has officially surpassed Tesla as the world's leading electric vehicle brand in terms of pure sales volume as of early 2026. In 2025 alone, BYD delivered over 2 million fully electric vehicles compared to Tesla's 1.6 million, which represents a staggering shift in the global power dynamic that most Westerners are only just beginning to realize. While Elon Musk was busy debating the ethics of AI and rebranding social media platforms, the Chinese engineers in Shenzhen were focused on a different kind of dominance by manufacturing their own batteries and controlling every single link of the supply chain to produce vehicles that are not just cheaper, but in many cases more technologically advanced for the average consumer. The gap between these two titans has become a razor-thin edge where every quarterly report feels like a battle in a global war for the future of transportation, and this is exactly why the affordable Tesla is no longer a choice, but a mandatory survival strategy. You see, the traditional automotive industry is currently embroiled in a brutal price war that has seen margins collapse across the board, and Tesla's once legendary gross margins, which used to hover near 30%, have been dragged down to the high teens as they slash prices to stay relevant in a market flooded with high-quality Chinese alternatives. But here is the secret that the analysts often miss, which is that Tesla isn't just cutting prices to sell more metal and rubber, but rather they are cutting prices to ensure that their software remains the standard operating system of the road. If BYD wins the volume game, they win the data game, and if they win the data game, they win the future of artificial intelligence, which is the one area where Tesla still maintains a significant lead through its vision-based neural networks. Tesla's full self-driving version 14 has recently rolled out with massive improvements in highway lane switching and speed consistency, and it is now learning from a fleet of over 8 million vehicles globally, which is a data set that no other company on Earth can replicate easily. Every time a BYD car is sold in Europe or Southeast Asia, it is a missed opportunity for Tesla to put another set of sensors on the road to feed the Dojo supercomputer, which is why the $25,000 price point is the magic number to unlock the next billion miles of training data. We are witnessing a fundamental restructuring of what it means to be an automaker, where the goal is no longer to make a profit on the physical hardware of the car, but to use that hardware as a low-cost vessel for high-margin software services that will eventually generate revenue for decades. While companies like Volkswagen and Hyundai are struggling to pivot their massive legacy operations toward electric platforms, Tesla is already pivoting away from cars entirely and toward what Elon Musk calls a physical AI company, where the vehicle is just one form factor of a larger robotics ecosystem. The recent unveiling of the Cybercab, which is a dedicated two-seater robotaxi with no steering wheel or pedals, and an expected production start in late 2026, is the ultimate proof that the steering wheel is becoming an optional accessory in the eyes of Tesla leadership. If Tesla can successfully launch a mass-market vehicle that doubles as a data node, they can accelerate the timeline for unsupervised FSD to a point where the concept of owning a car becomes obsolete for the average person living in a major city. This is the volume game played at an exponential level, where the more cars you have on the road, the faster your AI learns, and the faster your AI learns, the sooner you can launch a global robotaxi network that renders every other transportation company on the planet obsolete overnight. The tension is palpable as BYD begins to integrate its own autonomous systems like the God's Eye technology into even its cheapest models, proving that the Chinese are not just competing on price, but are now chasing Tesla into the realm of high-level intelligence. We are currently living through the most volatile period in automotive history since the invention of the internal combustion engine, and the winner of this decade will not be the company with the best-looking car, but the company with the most efficient brain. As we move into the technical heart of how these machines actually function, you will see why the battery technology and the manufacturing tricks being developed in the gigafactories are the only things keeping Tesla in the race against a Chinese titan that shows no signs of slowing down its global expansion. While the world is distracted by the sleek lines and minimalist interiors of the latest Tesla models, there is a far more profound revolution happening beneath the floorboards and inside the high-security zones of the gigafactories, where the car is being reimagined as a singular high-performance battery pack with wheels attached. To understand why Tesla can even consider a $25,000 price point, we have to look at the massive technical breakthrough of the year 2026, which is the perfection of the 4680 battery cell with a full dry electrode process for both the anode and the cathode. This isn't just a minor incremental update, but a complete departure from how batteries have been made for the last 30 years, because by eliminating the massive and expensive drying ovens used in traditional wet battery manufacturing, Tesla has slashed its energy consumption and factory footprint by nearly half. These new generation cells have officially reached an energy density of 300 watt-hours per kilogram in early 2026, allowing the refreshed Model Y and the upcoming compact crossover to achieve 15% more range without adding a single gram of extra weight. This is the engineering moat that allows Tesla to maintain its lead, even as competitors like BYD use cheaper but heavier lithium iron phosphate or LFP chemistries to keep their costs down. Tesla is now playing a dual strategy where they use these ultra-dense nickel-based 4680 cells for their long-range and performance models, while simultaneously ramping up domestic LFP production in Nevada using equipment licensed from CATL to power the standard range Model 2 or Redwood project. This allows them to dominate every segment of the market, from the budget-conscious daily commuter to the high-performance enthusiast who demands 600 kilometers of range on a single charge. But the battery is only half of the story, because the real magic is happening in the assembly process through what Elon Musk calls the unboxed manufacturing method, which has officially entered mass production at Giga Texas this year. Unlike traditional assembly lines where a car frame moves slowly through a long tunnel while hundreds of parts are bolted on, Tesla has broken the vehicle down into 6 distinct modules that are built in parallel. The front underbody is a single massive gigacasting, the rear is another, and the sides and roof are separate subassemblies that are fully outfitted with seats, electronics, and trim before they ever touch the main chassis. This parallel manufacturing approach has reduced the factory footprint by 40% and allowed Tesla to deploy the world's first 55,000-ton Giga press, which can literally stamp out a complex structural underbody in a matter of seconds. We are talking about replacing over 70 individual metal parts with a single piece of cast aluminum, which eliminates thousands of weld points and reduces the vehicle's weight by over 10% while increasing its structural integrity to levels never seen in a mass production car. This is why the legacy automakers are in such deep trouble, because while they are still trying to figure out how to transition their unionized labor forces and outdated stamping plants, Tesla is operating a factory that looks more like a high-speed printing press for cars. By the middle of 2026, the Austin factory is expected to reach a production cadence of 10,000 vehicles per week for the new affordable platform alone, which is a scale of efficiency that allows Tesla to bake in a healthy profit margin, even at a $25,000 MSRP. Every single second shaved off the production line and every dollar saved on the battery chemistry is redirected back into the AI and software development that powers the vision-based FSD system, creating a feedback loop of innovation that is becoming impossible to disrupt. The battery is no longer just a source of fuel, and the factory is no longer just a place of assembly, but rather they have become the ultimate competitive weapons in a war where only the most vertically integrated and technologically aggressive companies will survive. As we move into the final and most controversial part of the strategy, you will see how these manufacturing miracles are all leading toward a single goal, which is the total removal of the human driver from the equation and the birth of a global autonomous network that will redefine the very concept of wealth and ownership. As we stand in March 2026, the dream of a fully autonomous world feels closer than ever, yet the path ahead is littered with invisible landmines that could derail the entire Tesla empire. Elon Musk has doubled down on his promise that the Cybercab, which is the steering wheel-less robotaxi, will begin volume production in April 2026 at Giga Texas, but this aggressive timeline is facing its greatest challenge yet from the cold reality of global regulation. While the software has reached version 14 and is officially being hailed as a sentient driving experience in its latest supervised trials, the leap from human supervised to completely empty seat driving is a chasm that many governments are not yet ready to cross. In Europe, for example, Tesla is currently navigating a bureaucratic maze, with the Dutch Vehicle Authority RDW aiming for a landmark approval by March 20, 2026, but the regulators are rightfully concerned about how a vision-only system handles the chaotic diversity of old-world streets and unpredictable weather. We must confront the reality that while AI can master a sunny day in California, a single intense rainstorm or a sudden snow-covered highway in Germany can still paralyze the most advanced neural networks by creating salt and pepper noise that blinds digital cameras. This technical bottleneck is the risk factor that no one in the hype cycle wants to talk about, because if a robotaxi fleet has to shut down every time it rains, the economic model of recurring revenue begins to crumble. Furthermore, the public trust is currently hanging by a thread following a series of highly publicized robotaxi collisions in early 2026, where 14 incidents were reported over 800,000 miles of testing. While Tesla's own safety reports claim that FSD-equipped vehicles are 7 times safer than the average human driver, recording one major collision every 5.3 million miles, critics and safety experts argue that these statistics are skewed because they don't account for the edge cases, where human intervention is the only thing preventing a catastrophe. The competition is also closing in as Waymo expands its driverless services across more American cities, and Chinese rivals like BYD begin to export their own God's eye autonomous tech, which uses a different sensor suite to challenge Tesla's vision-only philosophy. This is the ultimate high-stakes gamble, where Tesla is betting everything on the idea that more data from a $25,000 car, codenamed Project Redwood, will eventually solve the intelligence puzzle before the regulators or the competition catch up. Project Redwood has officially moved from a ghost story to a metallic reality with pilot units already rolling off the lines in Texas and Berlin, utilizing a 53 kilowatt-hour LFP battery and a revolutionary 48-volt low-voltage architecture that cuts copper weight by 15 kilograms per car. If they succeed, we are looking at the birth of a new era where transportation is a utility as cheap and accessible as water, but if they fail, the Model 2 might just be remembered as the most expensive data collection experiment in history. The future of Tesla is no longer about being a car company, but about whether it can survive the transition into a global AI sovereign that controls the very pulse of human movement, and every kilometer driven on the path to that 10 billion mile threshold will determine if this is the ultimate victory or a historic collapse.